Welcome into BTN's Take 10 podcast. This is Alex Roux of BTN, and this episode's guest is former Rutgers center CJ Gettys. Let's get into it.
Take a look, listen, and enjoy. Look at here, look at here.
With the catch, the finish! Oh, my goodness! What a catch!
Oh,
energy,
my goodness.
enthusiasm. It's picked off! It's selfish! Brilliant!
He's still going! Touchdown!
All right, we'll get to the interview with CJ in just a moment, but before we do that, I want to get in a quick word from our sponsor, Northwestern University's School of Professional Studies. You can build a solid foundation in the strategic, creative, and analytic skills that are essential for success in the business of sports in the master's program in sports administration at Northwestern University. Find out more at sps.northwestern.edu/sports. Great opportunity there for anyone looking to beef up their skills and maybe work in the sports industry at a place like BTN. Definitely check that program out. And now, CJ Gettys. I'm very pleased to be joined by former Rutgers big man, current professional hooper, CJ Gettys. CJ, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you jumping on. It's been a while since I saw you out in the court on a Big Ten court at least. So, want to get you on to catch up. Let everyone know, especially Rutgers fans who remember you from that one season at the RAC, what you've been up to in the past few years.
Past few years, just been playing professional basketball. Been in England for 3 years. Tried my hand in the G League. Things didn't work out. And this year, just about 2 weeks ago, signed to go play in Japan. Exploring something new.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the new venture there. How was the British Basketball League? How did you end up there? And what's kind of the level of competition? And just take us through that league and the landscape there.
So I actually ended up there through my first agent, who I hired right out of Rutgers. Went there, played for the Cheshire Phoenix my first year, had a phenomenal year, made the team of the year, AKA like the best 5 of the year. Didn't make the playoffs that year. The following year, I tried my hand, went to China for like a 2-week stint. Things didn't work out, a very third world. Didn't like it, so I ended up back in England with the same team again, the Cheshire Phoenix. Didn't have as good a year, partially because I think it's because I came in halfway through the season. So, I didn't really, get warmed up from the start like most players did. And then third year, I played for a team, Newcastle Eagles, after I tried my hand at the G League. So I actually made the training camp roster for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, which is the G League affiliate of the Indiana Pacers. There was some great talent in the training camp. Hashim Thabit, a couple guys, Brian Bowen, Naz Long, guys that were on 2-way contracts. Made some good friends, but things just didn't work out. Ended up back in England with the Newcastle Eagles. Had a phenomenal year. It was sad that things ended the way they did with COVID coming. But luckily, March 15th or around that time, I believe the last game we played was actually a trophy game in which we won. I was lucky enough to be the MVP of the game. And then, we were home the next day. At least I was. So things have been weird. Signing for the following season was, always up in the air because nobody knows what's going on with this COVID thing. And luckily, about 2 weeks ago, I signed a deal to go play in Japan.
Yeah, when are you supposed to head to Japan? Like, when does that season start? And is it still kind of uncertain, or are things pretty well locked in?
I think there's a little bit of uncertainty. Right now, they're talking about early November coming in. When games will start, I don't know yet. I guess they're waiting to see, what their government's saying. But just hoping for the best and, continue to be prepared for when the time does come, just got to up and leave. That's how professional basketball is, especially overseas. You might sign a contract and a team might want you to leave the next day, or a team might, not want you there for a month or two. So you just got to always be ready, stay in shape, be ready to play basketball.
For sure. And it sounds like you carved out a nice role in England, and congrats on that, keeping the career going. But definitely want to revisit some of those stories in a little bit because I love overseas basketball stories. Like, that's where some of the best hoops talk can be found, I feel like. But I do want to talk about Rutgers because that's where most of these listeners know you from. Tell me about the process to end up at Rutgers, because you started your whole undergraduate career was at UNC Wilmington, and Rutgers wasn't anywhere near your hometown, wasn't anywhere near your college town. So what drew you there to close out your career in the beginning of Coach Pikiell's tenure there?
So actually, assistant coach Jay Young at the time at Rutgers in his first year with Coach Pikiell, we had a mutual. Coach Jamie Kashmerick, who is my assistant coach at UNC Wilmington, and Coach Young were very good friends and, had met each other somewhere down the pipeline. And Coach Kashmerick recommended me to Coach Young as a fifth-year available transfer. I was on the phone with Pikiell, very soon after that, and, just developed a great relationship from there. And, Pikiell had, a great vision for Rutgers basketball, and obviously you can see that now. And I bought into his ideas and system, and I was just glad to be a part of that from the beginning. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'll play for Pikiell, 7 days a week, every day of the month, every day of the year. Great guy. He's a player's coach, and guys can definitely see that.
It's so common now in college basketball with the transfers and one-year guys, grad transfers. So what's it like trying to kind of pack a whole college experience into 1 year when you've already kind of done it? How do you fit in? How does the process kind of shake out? Just take me through showing up when you already have kind of gone through the whole college experience.
Well, it was actually very easy for me. I got there and the guys just trusted me from day one. I was a veteran. I was really the only senior on that team other than walk-on Khalil Beatty that year. So it was very easy for me to get adjusted. The guys took to me very well. I had just played in the NCAA tournament the year prior. In the first round, we played Duke. So guys trusted me, but I also brought that mentality. Like, I had to show them, reasons to trust me. So I got there from day one, being very vocal, being a leader through my voice, and just working hard. A lot of things have changed since then. Obviously, during my career, I was a bit heavier, wasn't the most athletic guy, but I've changed that, and I realized, that's better for my body, better for my career long-term. And, if I could go back in time and realize this a lot sooner than I did, I think I might be somewhere else in life. But, lessons are learned, and, you make the best of them.
Yeah, and, we talked about it. You got there in year one of Pikiell. Does anything at all, and it sounds like you have nothing but nice things to say about him, anything at all surprise you just about how he's kind of steadily built it into being an NCAA tournament team like they were last year?
The only thing that surprises me, honestly, is that it hasn't happened faster. He's a great guy. He recruits well. He's a player's coach. Everybody loves him. I don't think the guys, has anything negative to say about him. Nobody that's played for him. And there's a good reason for that. He's had guys that have been successful. Jameel Warney played in the G League for years. That he's become one of my close friends. I work out with him regularly. Geo Baker's having a great career at Rutgers, from a guy that was barely even ranked or recruited out of high school to go play for a Big Five school, and have a great career like he has. And just the other day, I believe Andy Katz rated him, top 10 best players to come back for college basketball this season. I'm looking forward to see what he does this season. But, also able to land transfers like Jacob Young from Texas, big name, big kid, good recruit. But Pikiell's just done a good job of keeping guys from New Jersey back, keeping them in New Jersey, Paul Mulcahy, Ron Harper Jr. That's important for, the program and stuff like that. And people in New Jersey see that, and they want to come to Rutgers as well, just like Cliff Omarui, New Jersey kid, see what Ron Harper doing, Paul Mulcahy doing. So he wanted to join the process.
Coach Pikiell seems like such a nice and genuine guy. He's been on the show before. I had a great time talking to him. Did he, and I know he's intense, like you can tell he's intense on the court. Did he ever actually get mad at you guys? Did he ever get to a point where, he was maybe pissed off, where it shook you a little bit?
Oh, Pikiell said some things that, would make you say, whoa, but, he meant it in the most sincere way. But you would also be able to have a laugh about it afterwards because some of the stuff he said was in such anger that it didn't make sense. So, but you knew he was being serious at the time, but afterwards you could always come back and have a laugh at it. Just a great guy. I mean, I don't think he has a harmful bone in his body or, anything like that. He's been through a lot, personal life, stuff like that, with his wife and stuff. But, I love the guy to death. I would play for him every day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, he was so nice. We were at the Final Four, and we were just in the back of like some restaurant. He agreed to sit down, meet with me. He's like, whatever you need. He comes in this dark booth in the back and is doing this interview. Great personal experience with him as well. If you had to take maybe one memory or experience from your 1 year in Jersey, it could be on the court or off. What's kind of one thing that sticks with you to this day that you reflect on and cherish?
I mean, to be honest with you, one thing that's been a lifelong impact thus far is actually I met my girlfriend in New Jersey, still with her to this day. She's been there for me throughout my whole pro career. And I think that's very hard to find nowadays. She supported me from day one. But basketball-wise, it definitely have to be hitting the game winner against Hartford. Little putback. Hartford was a team that we were expected to beat, but they gave us one hell of a game. And we came storming back. We were down at one point, and, they hit a putback to win the game. That was my first game winner in college. So, it made me feel important. The fans loved me from there. But I also feel like I just played with a lot of energy, and the fans reacted very well to that. So just, my whole Rutgers year in general was nothing but a blessing.
See, that's why I left the door open for off the court so you can get some brownie points, with the lady. Nice going. But you mentioned it. No, you were like, it seemed like you were a fan favorite. That's why you stuck out to me, not only for your play, but because it seemed like you resonated whenever we would share like your highlights on social media. So why do you think you had that connection with Rutgers basketball fans, even at a time when the program wasn't quite to where it is now?
They were looking for something. Rutgers Nation was looking for something to believe in. And to have a player come in for 1 year and to have that kind of energy, I think they really appreciated that. And that was the beginning of the buy-in process to Pikiell. And they could, see what I was doing and expect to see more of that for the years to come. And they have with guys like Geo Baker, Ron Harper Jr., Paul Mulcahy, Jacob Young, Caleb McConnell, all those guys. Even Deshaun Freeman after I left, those guys. They play with heart. They play with energy. They play to win. And at the end of the day, everybody has each other's backs, including Pikiell, coaching staff. Rutgers is just on its up and up.
So how have you been able to follow the team and their games the last few years? Being over in England, 6-7 hours ahead. Were you able to watch the games? You kind of have to wake up in the morning, check the score.
I would try and stay up as late as I could to watch the games and watch whatever games I could, whether that be, through a VPN and watching on ESPN or Big Ten Network, or just finding some kind of backdoor stream and hoping my computer doesn't get a virus. It was worth it, especially, Big Ten tournament times when they were playing in, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That was a great time for me because that was 7 p.m. England time. So, it gave me something to look forward to. But I'm just really disappointed I didn't get to watch them play in the NCAA tournament this year. I think they could have made one heck of a run. And it's just sad. That's just Rutgers' luck, isn't it?
I was gonna say, what was your reaction when you heard that the tournament was canceled? I felt so bad, not only obviously for Rutgers, like Penn State, Dayton, my alma mater, Illinois, teams that hadn't been there in a while or had a great chance to make a run, and it was just the rug was pulled out from under them. So how did you react to that? Obviously unfortunate development.
I was very upset for the players and Pikiell, a whole group of people that deserve nothing but the opportunity to prove themselves on the big stage. They proved it in and out throughout the year, especially in the Big Ten tournament, beating big teams, Purdue, stuff like that. And, I remember vividly they were getting ready to warm up for a Big Ten tournament game. Like they were there ready to play. I forget who they were about to play. I think it might have been Indiana.
Yeah.
And then, mid warm-up, they're called off the floor. And I just knew it was downhill from there. If there's no Big Ten tournament, there's no NCAA tournament. Now, they hadn't said that. They were all hopeful for the NCAA tournament. But this thing has just shocked the world shocked the world in general. And I think it's very disappointing that we didn't get a chance to prove ourselves for a program that deserves it, that hasn't been there for years. But don't count us out. We definitely are going to be there again.
Yeah, I mean, they bring everyone back. You mentioned our guy, Andy Katz. He has them pretty high up, I think, in the Big Ten. I think he had him at 5th in this preseason rankings. So don't sleep on Rutgers for sure. And I think they'll be back in the mix in whatever form the NCAA tournament takes this year. Moving on, CJ, taking it back to, or taking it now outside of your Rutgers experience. The last game before, you mentioned playing for UNC Wilmington. The last game before getting there was against Duke. And, you mentioned you bring that experience to Rutgers, playing in the NCAA tournament. And you guys gave them a game. That was a great Duke team. What was it like kind of making it to the tournament and facing guys like Brandon Ingram, Luke Kennard, Grayson Allen, and competing out there?
We knew we deserved to be there. And a lot of teams, might go into a situation like that kind of expecting to lose. They see Duke and they're like, we made it this far. Let's just have fun. That wasn't our mentality that year. We thought we could truly win the game. And we proved that by, I believe we were actually up at halftime. And then second half, we just fell apart. I believe Grayson Allen got to the free throw line in an incredible amount of times in the second half. And Duke's a great team, great program, great coach. What can you expect? They were expected to win. So we couldn't kick ourselves too much. We gave them a game. I think we accomplished more than everybody thought we would.
Wait, so you're telling me that in a game against an underdog, Duke got some whistles and got to the free throw line? I would never believe that.
Who are you telling?
Man, hate to see it. All right, CJ, I told you I wanted to get back to some of your overseas career stories and professional career stories. So let's run it back and talk about your time in England. And before we even talk about any of the basketball experiences, I got to ask, because I feel like this happens when people go over there. Did you develop any sort of British accents or inflections at all? I can't hear it right now, but I feel like people always pick up terms and then it always kind of bleeds into their whatever their home native tongue is. So what did you kind of pick up from over there?
Yeah, so definitely the first 2 years, I would say more so than the last. I would find myself coming home from the season and, saying things like cheers instead of thanks. They're big on that. But other than that, not really. I try to avoid coming home with the British accent. There's other Americans on the team that you talk to, but it's really important for somebody coming from college that's going overseas to try to engage in the culture, make the most of it. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I made sure I got around, explored, but, British people were very, very entertaining, to say the least, as fans, whether they actually know basketball or not. They're 100% committed, very similar to how they treat soccer. So, people are diehard fans. Well, you have a select handful of people that actually do know about basketball or don't know about basketball that are diehard fans. They'd be willing to fight an opposition's team's fans outside the building, if need be. But it was a fun experience. The gyms were no bigger than maybe the size of a big high school gym, hold a couple thousand people. But it was interesting, to say the least. I enjoyed my time there, but like I said earlier in the podcast, it's time to explore new options. That's why I decided to take my talents to Japan this year, and see what they have to offer.
Yeah, what was the biggest culture shock, would you say? Did you get into soccer at all? Besides the whole driving on the wrong side of the street thing, and the biggest thing when I spent a couple of days in England, just noticing, and you mentioned how colorful their fans were. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm having lunch at this pub, and the pub is full with office workers at 2 p.m. Just having a good time. So, what was the biggest culture shock, and what what did you kind of take with you as far as some habits?
The biggest culture shock, honestly, you mentioned it, is driving on the wrong side of the road. So, if you have a driver's license when you go overseas, you are given the opportunity to have a car to transport yourself around, and the car is provided by the club. So in England, driving on the right side of the car and on the left side of the road, let alone a manual 6 speed, which not many people my generation nowadays can drive manual 6 speed anyways, having to shift with the left hand as opposed to the right is a big difference. But culture shock, other than that, really nothing. Like they have, food's very similar. They drink a lot. That's, like you said, people just casually drink a lot more than maybe so here. People might leave the office, for an hour or two, go have a few drinks, get back to the office, or maybe not go back to the office. And lastly, in England, it seems to rain every single day. You might find that in some states around here, but it's rainy, cold, windy every day of the week, something like that, pretty much. But so you definitely don't want to go to England to vacation for the weather. Maybe to do some sightseeing in London, go catch a soccer game in Manchester, Liverpool, something like that.
Yeah, what was your favorite city to visit? You were in Newcastle, I believe, but what was your favorite city on the road to kind of check out?
To be honest, I love Newcastle. Newcastle was amazing. Newcastle was like, a city that, took care of its players. They knew who we were. So, you'd be walking around, you get people to say something to you, acknowledge who you were. Manchester's a cool city, big city. London. So my girlfriend was begging me to go to London when she came over to visit. I finally gave in. We went and we did like London in 2 days. Saw the London Eye. We rode the London Eye. Saw Buckingham Palace, the London Tower Bridge, which I believe I actually learned a fact that the London Tower Bridge was actually donated to England from either like Wisconsin or like Michigan. So it was a bridge that was formerly in the United States, and they disassembled it and like gave it to England. So I learned that just the other day, actually. So that was something new. But did London in 2 days. It was cool to see. I wasn't the biggest fan, but it's a lifetime experience.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the Tower Bridge, but I was also in London for 2 days, and you said it right there, the cheat code. Just go on the London Eye. You can see the whole city. That's all the sightseeing you really need. Good call. And then you mentioned kind of how the hometown fans took care of you, recognized you, shouted you out. You have a distinct advantage of being 7 feet tall, so you're going to stand out no matter what. I feel like everything in Europe and overseas is kind of just smaller in general. The buildings are older, streets are narrower. What's the experience been like being so tall? What's been the biggest burden and then the best thing about it?
The best thing about it is just, being tall in general. It gives its advantages in basketball, it gives you advantages, at the grocery store. I can get something off the top shelf that somebody else might not be able to. It just adds up small things, but the disadvantages are, walking through a common doorway that you might be able to walk under, but I have to, break my neck, bend over to get through. And sometimes it is a bit annoying to be, this tall and just have 100 people come up to you and ask you if you play basketball, or ask you how tall you are, give you the comment, how's the weather up there? So, if they're polite about it, it doesn't bother me, but it's a different story when they're a bit rude. Sometimes you got to come up with some creative answers to give them if they're rude. So I've done that before.
I'm glad you said that because, I don't get too personal on the podcast, but my dad is tall. He's not as tall as you, but he's in that range. I didn't get blessed with the same genetics, so I'm just average height. But he has the same sort of issue, especially overseas. Like people will come up to him and comment or something. So he has some sarcastic remarks lined up, and I feel like that's just a community that only the tall people understand and can relate to. So that's hilarious that you brought that up. I imagine, I don't know if you've been over there yet. I'm guessing not with the whole situation, but I imagine you're going to stick out even more in Japan. What do you know about, Japan? What did your agent prep you on? And how are you kind of prepping to go over there and adjust?
Well, from what I've learned, through personal research or talking to people that have been to Japan, Japan is actually very Americanized compared to China. And I've been to China before, and China is, third world. Like it's a shock if you're not ready for it. But Japan, I assume it's going to be the same, generally smaller people just going to come up, think, like I'm some kind of like legend and, treat me, like I'm some star, like I'm Shaq or something. So I'm ready for it, but I'm also ready to dive into the culture and kind of engage and see, like what their people are like and, stuff like that. And I think it's just cool. It's an opportunity that not many people get to experience. So to take full advantage of it, try and see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think I've definitely had people on the podcast before who played in Japan. They all had great things to say. I think Stephen Bardo, Trevor Mbakwe, Riddell Jones, guys like that, all played there and had nothing but good things to say. So I think you're in for a fun experience. And you're right that Japan is definitely, Americanized, like you said, kind of Western. So, definitely have to follow your journey over there and see how you like it. But back home, speaking of some basketball going on right now, I'm just curious if you've been watching and taking in the NBA bubble season. If you're an NBA fan, how have you kind of been consuming the live basketball that is occurring right now?
So I've been watching here and there. I'm not tuned into every single game. I think given the circumstances, it's like a bit weird to catch a game at 3:00 in the afternoon. This is probably before the playoffs started, and you always want to catch the primetime games. You want to see LeBron and Dame go head to head. You want to see Kawhi and Luka go head to head. Just noticing who the real, like, the best players are in the NBA right now. Luka Doncic is something else. For a guy who many commentators said was slow-footed, couldn't, guard anybody in the NBA. They very well downplayed his game, and I think he's proven them wrong. LeBron's LeBron. I'm not a big LeBron fan, but, he's going to do what he does, and, that's be one of the best players in the world. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a freak. Defensive Player of the Year award yesterday, probably going to be MVP for the second year in a row, if you ask me. So I would personally like to see Dallas versus Milwaukee in the finals. But Dallas played terrible last night. The Clippers got the best of them. So, and I think Dame and them are done because Dame's not playing tonight, apparently, because of a knee. So, you can count LeBron to the next round, give him a free pass pretty much. But, it's been different, watching it with no fans, especially, and stuff like that. But it's just good to have something on TV and, be able to watch the sport you love.
Yeah, it's been more entertaining to me than I think I thought it would be. And I'm not the biggest NBA fan. Like, I'm a huge basketball fan, and I watch quite a bit of NBA, but I'm not obsessed with it like some other people are. But, like, I think the no fans aspect for me has just kind of highlighted how good and skilled these guys really are, because there's no distractions on the court. There's no camera cutting away to fans. You're just kind of locked into these guys just doing incredible things out there. So for me, that's been the coolest part. I know you rattled off a lot of players there. Who do you try and maybe model your game after, or take some lessons from bits and pieces of some guys' games? Who do you watch and you take after a little bit?
Personally, I don't watch anybody. I have a favorite player in the NBA who unfortunately had to sit out this season with the Achilles, Kevin Durant. I play absolutely nothing like him, but I just think it's incredible for somebody who's probably as tall as me, if not taller in reality, that can handle the ball the way he does, that can shoot the ball the way he does. He's a one-off player in the world, just like LeBron is. And I think one day, eventually, if he can remain healthy, Kevin Durant will go down as the greatest scorer in the NBA ever. But personally, there's really nobody to watch in the NBA anymore that, I can try to resemble my game off of. Centers in the NBA are a lot different nowadays, shooting threes, pick and pop guys, the traditional big man is almost non-existent anymore. I guess you can look at guys like Marc Gasol, Brook and Robin Lopez have all had to change their games to adjust accordingly. Brook Lopez is probably one of the best three-point shooters in the league percentage-wise. He might not take the most, but he's knocking them down when he gets a chance. So there's no Shaqs anymore. There's no, Yao Mings. There's no true centers in the league, no Hakeems, but it's fun to watch. I just don't have anybody to resemble my game after.
All right, how about doppelganger wise? Because you mentioned it's Slim CJ now. You trimmed down quite a bit from your Rutgers days. Does anyone compare you to anyone in the league looks wise? Or we'll even extend it to just celebrity wise. That's always fun, trying to get the celeb look-alike. I think that, you have a little bit of Luka Doncic in you, especially when you had the hair going. You had the hairstyle back in college, so I could see that a little bit.
So
Do you ever get any?
believe it or not, there have been a handful of times that people genuinely thought I was either Luka Doncic or Kristaps Porzingis. Here in the States, sometimes I'll find myself just like going to like an outdoor park to shoot around, just for fun, nothing serious, just to shoot around, just to get outside. And kids will honestly think I'm one of those too. And, they'll harass me the whole time I'm shooting, and they're like over there on their phones. Like you can tell they're on like Luka Doncic's Instagram trying to see like, is this him? Is this him? England, I've had the same thing. There have been a couple of times I've played along with it just, to make myself laugh. And the kids really went for it. But, I've definitely had a few, nothing serious. But those two guys definitely for sure.
In Japan, you just got to sell it. Like, why not? You're 8,000 miles away from home. Just sell it and see how far it gets you. All right, CJ, before we wrap up, that's hilarious. I'm glad I called that, by the way, because that was kind of the first thing I thought. But before we wrap up, I do want to get a couple more Rutgers questions worked in just to put you on the hot seat a little bit. Let's get a prediction for Rutgers for next year. Let's say they play 30-ish games, close to normal, and they get some sort of a season in. What kind of finish in the Big Ten you think they have in them? What kind of seeding in the NCAA tournament? Like I said, hot seat is on you now.
Okay, fair enough. 30th games, regular season, I say they go 22-8, 20-10, somewhere in that range. I say they make a run in the Big Ten tournament. Let's say semifinals at the least of the Big Ten tournament. So that puts them in the top 4 of the Big Ten tournament. Potential to achieve a 6 seed or better in the NCAA tournament and make a run, win 2-3 games. But possibilities are endless for a program that has guys buying into their head coach and, the philosophy. I'm definitely interested to see what happens. I know guys are just now getting started with preseason workouts and stuff like that again due to COVID. At Rutgers, I'm not 100% sure, but I've talked to a few other coaches. Coach Young at Fairfield, they're allowed to have their guys back in. So I definitely think, Rutgers is going to shock people yet again. Whether it's a shock, to me, no, I don't think so. Whether it's a shock to you, maybe not. But to the average fan that, has their negative views on Rutgers, just the Rutgers name, it's going to be a shock.
Not only at the top with Coach Pikiell, but like up and down the roster, it's a likable team. You mentioned your guys like Gio Baker and Ron Harper. Just out of curiosity, did you host any of those guys, like current players, on visits or anything like that? Like, did you have any sort of inkling that of who was coming in when you were there a few years ago?
So I knew some of the guys that were coming in. The only player that I actually hosted myself is no longer there was Peter Kiss, who just transferred to Bryant University or Brown, one of the two, I believe.
I remember him. Yeah.
He, was on a fully loaded roster this past year, didn't get the playing time that he maybe wanted. So he chose to go elsewhere. But he was the only player that I personally hosted. But I saw guys like Ron Harper Jr., Paul Mulcahy, because I'm still around. I'm actually in Jersey right now. So, pre-COVID last year, stuff like that, I was playing open gym with them, 2-3 times a week. So I kind of knew the guys, very personally, even though I might not have actually played with them. The last person that I would have played with that would have still been on last year's team would have been Eugene Omarui. Obviously, he decided to go elsewhere. But, all relatable guys. I talk to Ron frequently, Jacob Young frequently, Caleb McConnell frequently. So, I know the guys personally, just never hosted any of them.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I noticed your pin on social media said you're out in Vegas. So what's your connection there? Is that kind of just where you work out, or do you hang out, spend some time there?
Hang out, spend some time. Vegas, Sin City, got to get away from the real world every now and then. So, go out, have a little fun, lose a little bit of money, win a little bit of money, drive around the surrounding areas. Vegas is a great place, not only to gamble, in my opinion. You get a rental car, get a car, and, you go to Utah, go to some, national parks, stuff like that. That's kind of stuff that interests me. I don't have to be drinking or, gambling all the time. So just switching it up.
Yeah, I asked because I just came back from that area. I did exactly what you just said in the national parks in Utah. Awesome trip. Kind of get, out in the socially distant outdoors, and it's kind of the summer to do that type of thing. So I feel like we have some of those interests aligning there. Good call.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, CJ, before I wrap up, I feel like more and more now I'm just asking my guests kind of about their food preferences toward the end of the show. So I'm just going to keep it going because I've been doing it in the past. So I'm going to ask you about two of the places you spent some significant amount of time in. What is your favorite British food, maybe delicacy or like thing that's unique to that part of the world? And then we'll take it to New Jersey and maybe some of the restaurants there. But let's start over across the pond.
So in England, there were actually a couple places I really loved. So one was called Miller and Carter Steakhouse, very much like just a high-end Longhorn Steakhouse or like, any steakhouse really, but a bit higher end. Great food, great prices, great atmosphere. In Newcastle, there's one spot specifically that I would love to open my own over here in the U.S. just because I think it would blow up. It was a place called Coop Chicken House, specialized in chicken wings, shredded chicken boxes with like French fries, buffalo sauce, jalapenos, onions, just phenomenal stuff at ridiculously affordable prices. I would eat there 2-3 times a week just because it was chicken. It was relatively healthy, but it was also so good. But other than that, England's got your traditional McDonald's, Burger King. Newcastle even had a Taco Bell. And then, pub food's always good. Pub food's cheap, tasty, affordable. You get a lot of food. So, you can't go to England and not go to a pub.
All right. How about in New Jersey? I got my favorite one, or at least my well-known restaurant whenever we get out there. But let me hear what you got.
To be honest, I don't really have any favorites in New Jersey. I think I found myself eating at a lot of, chain places. I haven't really got out in Jersey like that.
So you had the audience till just now. Now they're like, we thought you were one of us. You don't have a near and dear to your heart place. I will say that my spot is called Chaffee's, and I've actually never been there. I don't know if you've had it, but it's I think one of like a football family or one of the former football players is involved. And they just have some really good Italian food, and they would always bring it to us when we stopped through. So that's my spot. And you get all the Jersey favorites, your pasta and your pizza and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually not a fan of the Jersey pizza or the New York pizza, as they call it. And I get a lot of crap from my girlfriend and her family for that all the time, and they love it. But I also never been big into the Jersey, Taylor ham or pork roll debate. I don't think I've ever had either of them. So I'm sure wherever this podcast goes, posted, whoever watches it, I'm going to get some feedback for that too. But, I find myself just eating it, like regular restaurants around here, nothing special, Olive Garden, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Fans are going to be like, we have all this great Italian food in New Jersey and you're going to Olive Garden. But I can't hate because Olive Garden, the breadsticks, everything there, don't sleep on it. So
exactly.
I definitely feel you. All right, CJ, before we hop off, one last question. I imagine as your date to go overseas gets closer, you probably have less and less free time, but what have you been doing to kind of keep busy? A lot of time around the house these last 6 months. Has it been music, video games, Netflix? What have you been doing outside of basketball to keep your time occupied?
As a basketball player, you still have to find ways to stay in shape, to get that workout in. So, I've been doing that. Gyms are actually announced to be reopening September 1st here in New Jersey. That was actually announced this morning, so very excited for that. But actually started, getting my hand into basketball cards, baseball cards, collecting rookie cards of guys like Luka, and Zion and John Morant. You would be surprised at, the prices that some of these cards are going for. It's kind of entertaining. It's fun. It's a bit like gambling. You pay prices to open up boxes, and if you get a Luka Doncic card and it's in good shape, you send it off to PSA or Beckett grading service to get it graded. Luka Doncic's like BGS 10s, which is like the best grade a car can get, are going for like a couple grand, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know if you just saw the other day anywhere, but there was actually a guy from Vegas, I believe his name is Gary V, just sold a Mike Trout rookie card, like a purple refractor, for $3.2 million. And just four years ago, he bought it for $400,000. To flip it for that kind of return is ridiculous.
I did see that, and it beat out the previous record, the T206 Honus Wagner card. And I remember that for some reason because I used to be pretty big into the sport, especially baseball card game when I was younger, and I just have boxes of them sitting at home, and it's always been kind of like a running joke in the back of my mind, but like they're going to come back someday, kind of like vinyl came back. Everyone kind of, the general public downplays it, but I think you and I are going to be sitting on a gold mine at some point down the road. So I like where your head's at.
You might want to go look in them boxes to see what you have, to be honest.
Good advice. CJ, that's all I got for you, man. Appreciate the conversation. It was a lot of fun catching up. We'll certainly be rooting for you as you take the next leap in your basketball journey. And like I said, just great getting to know you a little bit and update the fans on what you've been up to.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks once again to CJ for joining the show. Really appreciate him jumping on and going through a wide variety of topics. I always enjoy when athletes that maybe only spent a year or a short amount of time at a school where it clearly sticks with them. The experience, clearly has an impact on them for the rest of their lives, kind of like how CJ expressed there. I mean, like he said, he met his girlfriend in New Jersey. He's still there right now conducting this interview. And even though, it's a school that he didn't originally commit to, it's something that he's clearly passionate about, follows to this day, closely, and make sure to watch all the games and keep in touch with the players and the coaches. It's really cool when that happens. I think Spike Albrecht is another guy we've had on the show multiple times who went to Purdue and after a really memorable career at Michigan, and still has really strong connections at Purdue to that school and to those guys. So just always enjoy picking the brains of guys like that who go through those experiences. And once again, enjoyed CJ's extensive conversation about what he's been up to and how he's followed Rutgers and, some of the interests outside of Scarlet Knights basketball and overseas basketball. So appreciate him once again for jumping on. I want to thank everyone for following along this summer. Obviously, it's been a different time, and there is a lot of uncertainty still ahead with how Big Ten sports are going to proceed. But one thing is for sure, we will continue to bring you episodes of the Take 10 podcast, and we'll bring you conversations that hopefully you find engaging as we navigate through the fall and navigate closer to the return of Big Ten sports, hopefully sooner rather than later. I appreciate your loyalty to the show. If it's the first time listening, just a reminder, you can subscribe and leave a rating or review on all our podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, Spotify, pretty much anywhere. Most places podcasts can be found, we're there. And you can also find us on Big Ten Network's YouTube channel, which you should be subscribing to already. There is a playlist that features all the episodes of the Take 10 podcast. And you, as we've been doing all summer, you can now see our guests and myself. If you want to see these interviews play out on camera, they are on YouTube thanks to the magic of Zoom. So check that out for sure. I want to thank my special guest producer this week, Wes White, one of our video manager at BTN, who is taking over for Julie Bronder, who is our normal producer. She's on vacation. So shout out to Wes for hopping in and pinch hitting. All right, that's all we got for this week's episode. Like I said, keep it locked in Take 10 Podcast. We'll continue to put out episodes into the fall. And as long as they'll let me have a microphone, I'll continue to talk to interesting Big Ten related people. Thanks as always, and we'll talk to you soon here on the Take 10 Podcast.